Lord Dattaatreyar. This manifestation incorporates the union of the Trinity Gods, in Hinduism, namely, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, as in one. He has been represented as the one, comprising the salient features of Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Having born with 3 heads, each represents Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma respectively, and having 6 hands, with the objects of their possessions, Trishul and Damaru, Conch, and Chakra, Kamandalam, and Japamala, respectively. The 4 dogs sitting beneath Dattaatreyar's feet, have been representing the 4 Vedas. The cow or Thanakama Venu, that is, the divine cow is standing behind him. Dattaatreyar is the God, one who gives us the 64 skills, which could have been the ultimate boons to mankind. When we worship him, our negative thoughts could have been prevented and also been resolved. It's been said that Lord Dattaatreyar was the son of the great sage Athri and his wife Anusuya. With the severe penance had they done towards the Trinity Gods, namely Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, they had been gifted with the divine child, with their resemblance and power. He has been depicted with having got 3 heads, each resembles the Trinity Gods, and 6 hands, in which he holds the objects of their possessions, or so called as weapons. Karthavirian was the son of a king, called as Karthavirian, who had been taken birth by having practiced the Virtha, that is, one type of rituals, namely Sapthame Snanam, which had been followed by the devotees of Lord Dattaatreyar. But the child's hands were found as inactive, even from birth itself. As he grew into his 14th year, he had lost his father Karthavirian. Even he had been higher of that kingdom, he never wanted to be the king, instead he preferred to serve Sri Dattaatreyar. Lord Dattaatreyar was maintaining a saint life at the bottom of the hill called as Lakya, even though he had been the divine birth, that is, the fusion of the Trinity Gods. Karthavirian, as per the directive of his minister, sage Garkar, became the disciple of Lord Dattaatreyar. But, before having left behind the palace, Karthavirian had been advised that it wouldn't have been an easy job to serve Lord Dattaatreyar, as had he been a severe master, since he only believed that everything in this world, except the Athma, that is, soul, would have been nothing but illusion. Karthavirian had done all services to his master without asking any question. But, several times, Karthavirian had been insulted without any proper reason. Lord Dattaatreyar had tested his patience, even one time asked him to leave his mutt, as there had been no more use to stay with him. But, Karthavirian was so stubborn in his status that he never had an idea of leaving him. At last he won the favor of Lord Dattaatreyar, and had been gifted with multiple boons that one could have never attained in their life. The boons he had attained from Lord Dattaatreyar had been immense in number, as well in value. Among them, some important boons had been as follows. 1. He never could have been defeated by anybody. 2. He could have got 1,000 hands, as once both his hands were inactive. 3. He never could have been defeated in land, water, and fire. 4. Always he should have been surrounded with wise men, as his boons made him proud and arrogant. 5. His death also could have been occurred with the hands of a great divine warrior. As per the boons had Karthavirian got from Lord Dattaatreyar, at last, his death had been caused by the ascetic warrior, Parashurama, who had been nothing but the sixth incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Parashurama, the great terror to Kshatriyas. In India, on those days, the kings were called as Kshatriyas, which denoted them as warriors. His incarnation was happened to reap the evil and arrogant kings in the world. This incarnation had been interlaced with the death of King Karthavirian, that he wished to be killed only with the hands of a great warrior. Once the king Karthavirian had gone for hunting with his men in a forest which came under his own territory, where the ashram of the great sage Dattagiri had situated. Having pushed with tired and hunger, he and his men reached the ashram of the sage Dattagiri, who was the father of the ascetic warrior Parashurama. In that ashram, the king Karthavirian and his men had been receiving a fine hospitality, with sumptuous food and water. Karthavirian wondered that how it could be possible for the ascetics to give such a nice reception. He asked the sage Dattagiri about his suspicion. The sage replied to the king that it could only be possible for him to do that task with the help of the divine cow, the Kamadhenu, he had with him. The king Karthavarian, overwhelmed with greed, wanted to take the divine cow with him, as he thought that it would have been the binding for the citizens to obey the king's order. But the sage Dattaatreyar replied that his order of handing over the divine cow had not been under his control. Instead, it would have been the wish of God himself. But Karthavarian forcibly abducted the divine cow to his palace. This incident had happened when there had been the absence of Parazuramar in that ashram. When Parazuramar had returned to his ashram, he knew everything what had happened during his absence in the ashram. So, with the anger in high pitch, he rushed towards the palace of Karthavarian. There, Parazuramar warned Karthavarian to surrender the divine cow to him, and asked him to feel sorry for his shameful deed. But how could one escape from the cruel hands of fate? His death had knocked the calling bell of Karthavarian's palace, as disguised in the form of Parazuramar. The king Karthavarian, having underestimated the ascetic warrior Parazuramar, ordered that if Parazuramar could value his life, he could have better left that palace, or else he would be killed definitely. Parazuramar, stood on rage, at once had showered the rain of arrows towards the army of Karthavarian, and had killed all the soldiers. Then only Karthavarian felt that he was standing before a great warrior, who had been the one who supposed to kill him, as he wanted to end his life only with the hands of great warrior. At last, Parazuramar used his divine weapon, called as Parazu, to decapitate Karthavarian's head. Even though Karthavarian had been a noble man, the greed of abducting the divine cow, Kamadhenu, had nullified all his virtues, and at last drank his life. Parazuramar, after having killed the king Karthavarian, reached his ashram, where his father, sage Dattaatreyar, pitied about the death of Karthavarian. He said that, in order to resolve the resem, that is, get rid from the sin of killing the king, Parazuramar should undergo the pilgrimage to various istalas. Parazuramar also did the same, what had his father told. Meantime, Karthavarian's sons took revenge by having killed the sage Dattaatreyar at his ashram. His wife Renuka, overwhelmed with grief, lamented the death of her husband by having beaten her breast 21 times, and called back her son Parazuramar, who had sensed that something had happened worse at his ashram. At once he returned to his ashram, and had known the cruel end of his father. He then pledged that he would kill all the Kshatriyas, that is, the arrogant kings of 21 generations, and also did what he had said. After that, he went to Himalayas for the deep penance. Avathuthar is the one who follows the custom of naked body, having only got long hair and beard, and could eat begging food, when there has been necessary for that. They have been steadfast in their principles, that everything in this world, except the Athma, that is, the soul, might have been nothing but illusion. They are great saints, who guide us to lead a pious life in earth. In this class hierarchy, Judge Swamigal comes as first, followed by his disciple Swayambhakasa Swamigal as second, followed by his disciple Santhanantha Swamigal as third. This Dattagiri of Avathuthar has been originated by Swayambhakasa Swamigal, and later, upgraded by his disciple Santhanantha Swamigal, who has been the author of Skantha Guru Kalvasam, the devotional hymn, in praise of Lord Muruga.